She used my military deployment to move her lover into our house. When I first signed my deployment papers, I kissed my wife, Emily, on the porch of the little white house we'd bought together and promised her I'd come back safe. She cried, holding on to me like she couldn't breathe without me, whispering how proud she was, how she'd keep our home waiting for me. I believed her, because love was supposed to mean trust, and I had nothing but trust in her. For months overseas, I clung to that image of her waiting for me, lights on in the kitchen, maybe brownies in the oven like she always made when she missed me. Her letters came often at first, full of hearts, doodles, even photos of her hugging our dog. But slowly, the letters turned shorter. The photos stopped. The calls, when they came, were rushed, distracted. She always said she was tired. "Don't worry about me," she'd say. "Just come home safe." I chalked it up to stress. Military life is hard on spouses too, I told myself. I didn't want to be selfish, so I buried my doubts under discipline and duty. But there were cracks. One night, while waiting in the comms tent for my turn to call, I overheard her talking in the background before she realized she hadn't muted herself. It wasn't her voice that broke me. It was a man's laugh. Low, familiar, easy in a way I hadn't sounded in months. She hung up quickly, blaming a TV show when I asked. My gut twisted, but I swallowed it down. I had to. Every day after that, something inside me itched. Something didn't feel right. And when my deployment ended earlier than expected due to an injury, I didn't tell her. I wanted to surprise her. I wanted to see her face when I walked up that porch again like I'd imagined 100 nights under a desert sky. But nothing prepared me for what I found when I came home. The curtains were drawn. A strange car was in my driveway, and when I opened my front door with my own key, I heard laughter echoing through the halls of the house I had fought to protect. It wasn't just Emily's laughter, it was his, and that was the moment my world shattered. I froze in the doorway, my boots still dusty from deployment, duffel bags slung over my shoulder. The house smelled different, no longer the warm scent of vanilla candles and dog treats, but cologne I didn't recognize. My dog, Max, barked from the living room, tail wagging furiously at me, but then darted toward the couch like he'd been trained to greet someone else. And there they were. Emily was curled up on the sofa, her head resting on the chest of a man I'd never met, at least not in person. He was laughing at something on the TV, one arm draped casually around her like he'd been there forever, like he belonged. My heart slammed against my ribs. I wanted to believe I was wrong, that this was some surreal misunderstanding, but the way she looked at him, soft, intimate, familiar, wasn't the look of someone waiting for her husband to come home. Emily. My voice cracked, but it cut through the room like a gunshot. She bolted upright, eyes wide, face draining of color. "Oh my God, Daniel." The man turned, his smirk fading when he saw me standing there in uniform. His casual confidence faltered, and I caught the faintest flicker of guilt, or maybe annoyance, like I just ruined his evening. What are you doing here?" she stammered, voice trembling. "What am I doing here?" I dropped my bag onto the hardwood with a thud. "This is my house, my wife, my life. And you're asking what I'm doing here?" Max whined, pacing between us, tail wagging like he couldn't understand the tension suffocating the room. The man, tall, athletic, smug, stood slowly, squaring his shoulders. "Look, man, I don't want trouble." "Trouble?" I snapped, every ounce of discipline drilled into me by the military battling with the tidal wave of rage crashing in my chest. "You're in my home with my wife, while I've been halfway across the world serving this country, and you call it trouble?" Emily stepped between us, her hands raised like she could calm the storm she'd created. Her wedding ring still glinted on her finger, and for the first time, it looked like a weapon, not a promise. "Daniel, please, just let me explain." But explanations were lies in waiting, and I wasn't sure I could stomach hearing them. Because deep down, I already knew the truth. She hadn't been waiting for me, she'd been replacing me. Emily's voice shook as she tried to string words together, but each one hit my ears like static. "Daniel, it's not what it looks like," she said, eyes darting between me and him, her hands trembling. I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Not what it looks like? You're curled up with another man in our house, Emily. While I've been dodging bullets, you've been playing house. Tell me, how exactly should this look?" Her face crumpled, but she didn't deny it. That silence, that hesitation, was louder than any confession. The man cleared his throat, stepping forward like he had a right to speak. We didn't mean for you to find out this way. This way. The words slammed into me harder than any blow I'd ever taken in combat. So there was a plan. They expected time, maybe even hoped I wouldn't come home at all. I glanced around the living room, and the details I'd missed in my stunned rage began to bleed through. A leather jacket hanging on the coat rack, too big to be mine. An extra toothbrush on the bathroom counter when I stormed past earlier. A set of men's sneakers by the door. He wasn't just visiting. He was living here. How long? My voice was low now, deadly calm. How long has he been in my house? Emily's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "A few months." The timeline snapped into place. The short calls, the rushed excuses, the background laughter I'd heard but forced myself to ignore. All the little red flags I'd buried under love and loyalty suddenly rose from the grave to strangle me. "A few months," I repeated, the words hollow in my mouth. "So while I was fighting to make it back to you, you were moving him into my bed." Her tears spilled then, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No love. Just the hollow echo of betrayal where my marriage used to live. The man had the audacity to reach for her hand like he needed to play the hero in his own twisted story. She deserves someone who's here for her. You chose the military. Before he could finish, I stepped forward, rage flaring hot. You think serving my country was a choice against her? I bled for this flag, for her, for this house you're standing in, and you think you can just slide in and take my place? Emily grabbed my arm, terrified now. "Daniel, please, don't do this." But it was too late. I wasn't just a soldier coming home anymore. I was a man who realized his entire world had been replaced piece by piece while he was gone, and I wasn't about to let this end quietly. I pulled my arm away from Emily like her touch burned. My heart was pounding, but my mind had shifted. No more shock, no more begging for explanations. I wanted the truth. Every last rotten piece of it. "How calculated was this, Emily?" I asked, my voice low and steady. "Did you move him in the week I left? Did you box up my life while I was across the ocean?" Her face crumbled, but her silence was an answer in itself. The man, his name I still didn't know, because I refused to give him that power, shrugged like this was all inevitable. "She was lonely, man. You left her alone for too long. She needed someone." The sheer arrogance in his tone nearly broke me. I scanned the room again, and the truth became unbearable. My framed military photos were gone from the mantel. The wedding picture of us in front of the courthouse, replaced with a generic landscape canvas. Even the blanket I used on the couch had been folded away into some corner. My life had been scrubbed out, piece by piece, as if I'd died overseas and she was preparing the house for someone else to live in permanently. That's when I noticed something else, mail stacked neatly on the counter. I stepped forward, flipping through it. My name wasn't on a single envelope. Not one. Every bill, every delivery, every magazine subscription, all in her name, or his. "You erased me," I said, staring at her, my voice flat but trembling with fury. "You erased me before I was even gone." Tears streaked down her cheeks. "Daniel, please, I never stopped caring about you." I slammed the stack of mail onto the counter, making both of them jump. "You cared enough to erase me from my own home? You cared enough to let him sit in my chair, wear his shoes by my door, sleep in my bed while I was fighting to come home to you?" The dog whimpered, sensing the storm building in the room. That's when Emily whispered something that made my stomach twist into knots. "I didn't think you'd come back." The words hung in the air like a bomb. She didn't just betray me. She planned a life without me. A future where I was nothing more than a folded flag and a memory. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't standing in my home anymore. I was standing in the ruins of a marriage I no longer recognized. Her words replayed in my head like a drumbeat. "I didn't think you'd come back." I stared at her, at the stranger I used to call my wife, and something inside me went cold. All those nights overseas, clinging to her letters like a lifeline, believing her "I love you" scribbled in pen, and all along she was laying the foundation for my replacement. But soldiers don't just break. We adapt. We plan. And in that moment, I knew rage wouldn't be enough. I didn't want to just scream, fight, or throw them out. No, Emily and her lover had carefully built this lie, and I would just as carefully dismantle their world. I straightened calmer now, and it unsettled them both. "You want me erased? Fine. but you'll regret underestimating me. Emily's lover, finally bold enough to puff his chest, snapped back. What, you gonna kick us out? This is her house now. You've been gone. You abandoned her. I smirked, a humorless curl of my lips. Funny thing about abandonment, you can't abandon what's legally yours. I saw the flicker in Emily's eyes then. Fear. Because she knew the house was in my name, the mortgage, the deed. Every signature belonged to me. I walked past them, slow and deliberate, running my hand along the banister like I was reacquainting myself with what was mine. You thought I was gone, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere until I decide otherwise. Emily's voice cracked. Daniel, please, let's not. Not what? I cut her off sharply. Not make this ugly. You already did that when you moved him in. Her lover muttered something under his breath, but I ignored him. My mind was already whirring, assembling a plan like a puzzle. I had the law on my side. I had proof of betrayal, of cohabitation. I had leverage she never dreamed I'd return to claim. But most of all, I had patience. I wasn't going to throw them out tonight. No, that would be too merciful. I was going to let them squirm, let them think they'd won, while I quietly tore down everything they built on the ashes of my marriage. Because Emily had forgotten one very important lesson. You never leave a soldier behind. And she was about to learn what it meant when the soldier she left came home, not as her husband, but as her reckoning. That night, I didn't unpack my duffel. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even ask him to leave. Instead, I sat in my own chair, the one he'd been lounging in minutes earlier, and turned on the TV like nothing was wrong. The silence was thick. Emily hovered near the kitchen, wringing her hands, while her lover shifted uncomfortably, clearly waiting for me to explode. But I didn't. I just sat there, calm as a stone, sipping water from my own glass. Because rage burns fast. Strategy lasts. When Emily finally whispered, Daniel, maybe you should stay somewhere else tonight, I almost laughed. The audacity. Stay somewhere else? In my house? While he keeps my spot warm? I leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. No, Emily, I'll stay. You two go ahead and live your little fantasy. Pretend I'm not here. But understand this, every minute I'm here, I'm watching, I'm documenting, and every mistake you make just makes it easier for me. Her lover scoffed, trying to mask his unease. You don't scare me. I grinned, slow and deliberate. Good. Then you won't mind when the sheriff serves you papers. He stiffened at that, and Emily's face turned white. Because unlike him, she knew I was capable of seeing a plan through. Over the next few days, I played the role of ghost in my own house. I left early, came back late, and kept my conversations minimal. But behind the scenes, I was busy. I called a lawyer. I gathered bank records. I took photos. His car in the driveway, his shoes at the door, him mowing my lawn like he owned it. Every little thing became a piece of evidence. At night, when Emily thought I was asleep, I could hear them whispering in hushed, panicked tones. She begged him to be patient, promised him it'll all be over soon. The words twisted like knives, but I stayed silent. Because silence was power. One morning, I left a stack of legal documents on the kitchen counter, just enough for Emily to see the word divorce in bold letters, then walked out without a word. When I returned that night, the stack was gone, hidden away like she could erase it. But the fear in her eyes told me everything I needed. My plan was working. She thought she could replace me. Now she was realizing she'd underestimated what it meant to be married to a man who knew how to fight battles most people couldn't survive. And this time, the battlefield wasn't overseas. It was home. The trap started with something simple. Routine. I made sure to leave the house at the same time every morning, keys jangling, boots heavy against the porch steps. Emily thought she knew my schedule, thought she had hours to play house with her lover before I came back. But soldiers know timing better than anyone, and one afternoon, I came home 3 hours early. I didn't slam the door or announce myself. I slipped inside quietly, moving with the same caution I'd learned overseas. The sound of laughter echoed from the kitchen. Her laugh, high and giddy, the one she used to save for me. His deeper chuckle followed, the sound of a man who thought he owned what wasn't his. I paused in the hallway, phone in hand, and pressed record. When I walked in, Emily was perched on the counter, his hands at her waist, both of them too shocked to move when they saw me standing there. Her face flushed red, and his smirk melted into anger. Daniel, this isn't what it looks like, she stammered again, the same tired excuse. I held up my phone, the red recording light blinking. Save it. You've already given me everything I need. Her lover stepped forward, puffing his chest. You can't record us without permission. That's illegal. I tilted my head, calm as ice. Illegal? What's illegal is cohabiting in my house, spending my money, and playing wife while plotting to erase me. Trust me, I've checked. Everything you're doing is more than enough for a judge to shred her in court. Emily slid off the counter, panic flashing in her eyes. Daniel, please, you don't want this to get messy. I laughed, dark and sharp. Messy? Emily, it's already messy. You just thought you could hide it. But here's the difference between you and me. I thrive in mess. I've fought in sandstorms, in chaos, in battles you couldn't imagine. And you think I can't handle this? She froze, tears spilling. He muttered something about leaving, but I cut him off. You're not going anywhere. Not until I'm done with you both. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, recording every second of their shame, and leaned on the counter with deliberate calm. You wanted me gone, Emily. Now I'm here, and the more you squirm, the sweeter this gets. Because what they didn't know was that I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was building the perfect case to destroy them both, legally, socially, and emotionally. And tonight was just the beginning. The next phase wasn't just about courts and lawyers. That would come later. No, the real sting had to be public. Emily loved appearances, holiday cards with perfect smiles, dinner parties with the neighbors, Facebook posts about how proud she was of her hero husband. She built her life on image. So I decided to shatter it. I started small, a Sunday cookout with our closest friends and neighbors. I sent out invitations like everything was normal, grilling steaks in the backyard, beer in hand, laughing with the guys like nothing was wrong. Emily, pale and jittery, kept glancing at me, terrified I'd expose her right then. And that's when I did. I stood, clinking my glass for attention. Hey everyone, quick toast, I said, flashing a smile. Most of you know I just got back from deployment. I came home expecting a welcome home party, but instead I found something better. Emily's grip tightened around her glass. Her lover, lurking in the corner, shifted uncomfortably. I continued, voice smooth, steady. Turns out, while I was overseas, Emily found a new roommate. A man. He's been keeping the bed warm, mowing the lawn, even sharing my dog. Guess you could say he's been doing my job. A ripple of gasps cut through the yard. Conversations froze, faces turned, first in shock, then disgust. Emily's cheeks flamed scarlet as she choked on her drink. It's not true, she blurted, but her voice wavered, weak against the heavy silence. Oh, it's true, I said, pulling out my phone. One tap and the recording from earlier, the laughter, the whispers, the intimacy, played loud enough for every guest to hear. Gasps turned to murmurs. Friends exchanged glances. One of the neighbors whispered, "Unbelievable." Emily's image shattered in front of her own community. The woman who preached loyalty and devotion was now exposed as a liar, a cheat, a fraud. And the best part? I didn't raise my voice once. I lifted my glass again, calm and cold. So here's to honesty and to starting fresh, because sometimes the truth makes the best toast. Everyone stayed frozen in silence, eyes wide, jaws clenched. And for the first time, Emily couldn't hide. The war was no longer just between us. Now the whole world knew. The fallout from the cookout spread faster than wildfire. By Monday morning, Emily's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friends, coworkers, even family calling, texting, demanding answers. She stopped posting her curated photos online, stopped smiling in public. The proud, polished woman everyone admired was suddenly the subject of whispers in grocery store aisles and hushed gossip at church. But I wasn't finished. Exposing her reputation was just phase one. Next came the part she never saw coming, her finances. While she and her lover played house, I had been busy digging into our accounts. And sure enough, the paper trail told its own story. Joint funds drained for dinners I never attended, weekend trips I didn't know about, expensive gifts that never reached me. She'd been bankrolling her affair with our money. I met with my lawyer, sliding the stack of statements across the desk. I want it airtight, I said. I want the judge to see every dollar she stole. By the time Emily got wind of it, it was too late. Her credit cards were frozen, joint accounts locked down. The car she drove, my car, was repossessed because the title was in my name. When she stormed into the house, shrieking that I was ruining her life, I didn't even flinch. Ruining your life? I asked, calm and steady. You already did that the moment you signed up for his. Her lover stood behind her, fuming, trying to play tough. You can't just strip her of everything. I stepped closer, towering over him. Watch me. Because here's the thing. You thought I'd roll over. You thought I'd disappear. But you've underestimated me since the second you walked into this house, and now you'll both find out just how dangerous a betrayed man with discipline and evidence can be. Emily's tears fell harder, not just from shame anymore, but from fear. Fear that she was losing everything she built, everything she clung to, all slipping through her fingers like sand. And I wasn't even done yet, because money and reputation were just weapons. The real blow was still coming, the one that would leave her with nothing but regret. The final act came swift and merciless. Court day. Emily walked in with her lover at her side, clinging to him like a lifeline. She looked worn down, eyes hollow from sleepless nights, reputation shredded, finances strangled. But still, she tried to hold her chin high, as if some shred of pride could save her. I sat across from her, crisp suit, every document neatly stacked. My lawyer laid out the case like a sniper setting sights. Proof of her infidelity, proof of him living in my house, proof of her using marital funds for the affair. Each piece landed like a hammer. The judge's face said it all before the gavel even fell. Emily lost everything. The house? Mine. The car? Mine. Savings? Mine. She walked away with nothing but the clothes on her back and the man she thought would save her. But here's the twist she never saw coming. He wasn't sticking around. When the ruling was read, her lover leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. I didn't sign up for this, he muttered, loud enough for her to hear. By the time we walked out of that courthouse, he was already gone, leaving her standing alone on the steps, broken and humiliated. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. My silence was victory enough. Months later, I heard through the grapevine that Emily was couch hopping, scraping by with part-time jobs, her shiny image reduced to whispers of pity and disdain. The woman who once erased me had been erased herself. As for me, I rebuilt, slowly, steadily. Not just a house, not just a life, but myself. And every time I looked in the mirror, I remembered that moment in my own doorway when I thought betrayal would break me. Instead, it forged me. And Emily learned the hardest truth of all. You can betray a soldier, but you'll never defeat one.